The Alhambra Decree, also known as the Edict of Expulsion, was a royal decree issued on March 31, 1492, by the Catholic monarchs of Spain, King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile. This edict ordered the expulsion of all Jews from the kingdoms of Castile and Aragon by July 31st of the same year, marking a dark chapter in the history of Spain and the Jewish people. The decree was a culmination of centuries of religious intolerance and a significant moment in the history of anti-Semitism, with profound consequences that reverberated across the globe. The relationship between Jews and Christians in medieval Spain was complex and often fraught with tension. For centuries, the Iberian Peninsula had been a melting pot of cultures and religions, where Jews, Christians, and Muslims coexisted, particularly during the period of Muslim rule known as Al-Andalus. This era saw a flourishing of Jewish culture, with Jewish communities contributing significantly to the intellectual and economic life of the region. However, the Reconquista, the centuries-long process of Christian kingdoms reconquering the Iberian Peninsula from Muslim rule, gradually altered this dynamic. As Christian forces reclaimed territory, Jews often found themselves caught between the shifting powers, facing increasing pressure to convert to Christianity or suffer persecution. By the late 15th century, Spain had become a fervently Catholic nation, and religious unity was seen as essential to political stability. Anti-Semitic sentiment had been growing in Spain for decades before the Alhambra Decree. In the 14th and 15th centuries, pogroms against Jews became increasingly common, fueled by religious fanaticism, economic envy, and social tensions. Many Jews were forcibly converted to Christianity, becoming conversos, or new Christians. Despite their conversion, these conversos were often viewed with suspicion and hostility, accused of secretly practicing Judaism, a practice known as crypto-Judaism. The Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, were determined to unify Spain under a single religion, Catholicism. In 1478, they established the Spanish Inquisition, a powerful and terrifying institution tasked with rooting out heresy, particularly among conversos. The Inquisition's brutal methods included torture and public executions, and it created an atmosphere of fear and suspicion throughout Spain. Against this backdrop of religious intolerance and persecution, the Alhambra Decree was issued. The decree, signed at the Alhambra Palace in Granada, gave Jews in Spain 4 months to either convert to Christianity or leave the country. The official reason given for the expulsion was that the presence of Jews was leading to the corruption of new Christians and hindering the work of the Inquisition. The decree was explicit in its severity. Jews who refused to convert were ordered to leave Spain by July 31st, 1492. They were permitted to take their belongings with them, but not gold, silver, or money, leaving them financially vulnerable. Those who stayed behind or returned to Spain without converting faced the death penalty. The impact of the Alhambra Decree was devastating. Historians estimate that between 40,000 and 100,000 Jews were expelled from Spain, while tens of thousands more chose to convert to Christianity rather than face exile. The expulsion led to the scattering of Spanish Jews across the Mediterranean and beyond, creating the Sephardic Jewish diaspora. Many of the expelled Jews fled to neighboring Portugal, only to face similar persecution there a few years later. Others found refuge in the Ottoman Empire, North Africa, and various parts of Europe, where they tried to rebuild their lives. The journey into exile was often perilous, with many Jews falling victim to pirates, starvation, and disease. The loss of the Jewish community was a significant blow to Spain. Jews had played a vital role in the economic, cultural, and intellectual life of the country. Their expulsion led to a decline in Spain's economy, particularly in areas such as finance, medicine, and trade, where Jews had been prominent. The expulsion of the Jews from Spain was a catastrophic event with long-lasting consequences. It was one of the most significant episodes in the history of anti-Semitism, setting a precedent for the persecution of Jews in other parts of Europe. The Alhambra Decree was part of a broader pattern of religious intolerance that would later manifest in the persecution of Muslims in Spain and the forced conversion or expulsion of other religious minorities. For centuries, the memory of the expulsion remained a painful wound for the descendants of those who were forced to leave. The Sephardic Jewish community, which traces its origins to Spain, preserved the memory of their ancestral homeland in their language, Ladino, and their customs. Despite their displacement, Sephardic Jews maintained a strong cultural identity, contributing to the richness of Jewish life in the diaspora. Remarkably, it wasn't until December 16, 1968, during the Second Vatican Council, that the Alhambra Decree was formally abrogated by the Catholic Church. This symbolic act came after Spain, under the dictatorship of Francisco Franco, had already established diplomatic relations with Israel in 1956, marking a significant step toward reconciliation. In recent years, the Spanish government has taken steps to address the historical wrongs committed against the Jewish community. In 1992, on the 500th anniversary of the expulsion, Spain formally invited the descendants of the expelled Jews to return. In 2015, Spain passed a law offering citizenship to Sephardic Jews who could prove their ancestry, an act of symbolic reparation for the injustices of the past. The Alhambra Decree and the subsequent expulsion of Jews from Spain stand as a stark reminder of the destructive power of religious intolerance and the human cost of bigotry. It was a tragedy that not only devastated the Jewish community, but also impoverished Spain, culturally and economically. The story of the Alhambra Decree is one of suffering and resilience, a testament to the endurance of a people who, despite being cast out of their homeland, managed to preserve their identity and contribute to the world in profound ways. Today, the memory of the expulsion serves as a warning of the dangers of intolerance and the importance of embracing diversity, reminding us that the dark lessons of history must never be forgotten.